What's going on, everybody? We're back once again with another edition of Sunday Night Spotlight, brought to you by Wrestling Republic. Stoked to be here. We've got the coolest guest we've basically ever had on this show. A little inside baseball here, little technical difficulties out of the gate, but we're going to get this one right this time. I've got the usual suspects hanging out with me, and I'm stoked about it. First and foremost, I always forget what it was again, though. We've got a guy out in Louisville. Can you remind me again, Driz?
Good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's the guy you should believe in, your boy Drizzy the Wrestling Plug, aka your soon to be King of the Question champion. But we're not here to talk about that right now. Back to you.
Absolutely. And up next, it's not a Tuesday. You'll be seeing this on a Sunday, but out in the DMV, we've got the Tuesday Night Delight himself. Shotty, what's going on?
It's your boy Shad Talks Graps. I'm so fly like an F5. You could call me Ock Lesnar. We in the building. I'm excited for this. Let's get into it. Just introduce this guest because this is one of the ones.
Absolutely. Last but certainly not least, most importantly, absolute legend of the game. The man, the myth, the legend himself. The Beer City Bruiser is here with us. What's going on?
Oh, it's going great. Thanks for the introduction. I don't know if I'm a legend yet, but have some legendary stories, that's for sure.
I feel like it. I think we all do here for sure. Let's get right into it though. Let's talk about how you got into the business.
Okay.
And where you started. What made you decide to be a professional wrestler in the first place?
So before, like I was saying, when we had the technical difficulties, when I was 7 years old, my uncle took me to a fair up in Wisconsin, and the AWA was there. And we were watching the show, and the main event was Bruiser Brody versus, it was supposed to be Brody versus Abdullah the Butcher, but Abdullah canceled or something. So they replaced him with Stan Hansen. And man, they were brawling everywhere. And Brody came up literally arm's length away from me. And I just looked up as a 7-year-old kid, and he was like 10 feet tall, and he was covered in blood, and just started hustling. And I looked at my uncle and said, "This is the most amazing thing in the world. Like, this is what I want to do with my life." And throughout my whole life, I always just wanted to be a pro wrestler. I'd follow Brody around. So I'd find Japanese wrestling. I'd find Puerto Rican wrestling, of course, American wrestling. And I was hooked, man. And I caught the bug, and I just wanted to do it.
Absolutely. And I mean, Brody and Hansen, what a start, right?
Yes.
Like we were discussing this again before the technical difficulties, but there's no worries about that. But like, they were a team, right? They're buddies. They're football buddies.
Yeah.
Back in the day, really, when you think about it, it's pretty incredible for that to be your intro to pro, like, right? Like that is a heck of a way to start.
Then I got obsessed with Brody. So like, I just, I found, the Freebirds because of that, because Terry Gordy and Brody were real close. And so I got to discover Texas wrestling. And then I eventually found Mick Foley, who was like the reincarnation of Brody. And that led me to ECW. And, now you got Dreamer and Raven. It just carried on. It all started with him.
It did. Bruiser Brody is a name, and you carry the Bruiser name proudly. And I know that, right? Like, and I think it's really cool because he's such a legend. It's somebody that I my father loved Bruiser Brody, and like, it just, I don't want to say underrated, but the people that don't know Bruiser Brody don't know what he did for the business, and everybody like if you've seen him, you get it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. That's the only way I can explain Bruiser Brody to people that haven't. Right? Like,
Sure.
I tell all the students that I train, like, I have a Mount Rushmore of guys I have to go watch, and Brody's number one because Brody, everything he did was amazing. He was larger than life. He was terrifying when he needed to be. He was a monster. He could cut a promo if he wanted to, and he literally checks all the boxes. And what's funny is in May 16th and 17th, I'm actually in St. Louis on a Bruiser Brody memorial show.
Oh, that's amazing.
And his wife's the one that asked for me to be on the show. So she's going to be there and stuff. So it'll be really cool to actually meet her. And I've talked to her online and thanked her and stuff and told her how much, he had an impression on me. But it'll be really cool to face to shake her hand and say, hey, he's the one. He's the reason I'm here.
That's
That-
a full circle.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
Okay. So also I gotta ask, can you tell us the opponent for that card?
I'm in a Rumble. I'm in the Bruiser Brody
Oh,
Rumble.
You're in the
Very
Rumble.
first
Okay, I was just saying. I was like, I didn't want to. No spoilers here.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm entering number 1. So it's like a fan fest, and then there's a Rumble because I guess there's a lot of guys, and the guy's like, "You want to do the Rumble?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care. Like, you're paying me either way." And he's like, "Well, we're gonna put you in number 1 because you got the Bruiser name." I'm like, awesome.
That's so cool. That is so cool too. That is awesome, by the way. And what's the date on that one more time in St. Louis?
May 16th and 17th. So the
16th and
fan
17th.
fest is the 16th, and then the show is the 17th.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I'm a Midwest kid, right? Chicago, we discussed that before the show or whatever, but also got Kansas City ties and everything. Spent a lot of time over in St. Louis as well. That is going to be a blast.
Yeah, and it's right at the Hilton at the airport. So fly in, don't have to drive anywhere, can drink as much as I want, be a good time.
Oh yeah.
Easy
Hey man.
peasy lemon squeezy there.
Oh yeah.
And all the fans of Wrestling Republic, if you out there, if you close by the vicinity, May 16th, 17th, you got nothing to do. You got something to do now. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, 100%. Let's keep it rolling though here. Shad, you got a question up next?
Yeah, I do have a question. So, obviously you have such a amazing career, and you've been wrestling, for a good amount of time. What kind of keeps the passion alive for you? Being a veteran nowadays, like, is there anything in wrestling that, within like the new age of wrestling that kind of, keeps you motivated, or whether it be like your students that you train, or whether it just be, all these new wrestling companies and how this new wave of how wrestling is going?
I think what keeps me going is I've always been a fan of wrestling, and I never stopped being a fan. And going out, and like, there's times where you're just miserable on the road and you're exhausted, but then going out and your music hits and hearing the crowd and stuff, like, that gets it going again. And Stone Cold said it best: wrestling's a drug, and the drug is you don't get the fix till you're behind the curtain and you hear the people. And I know it's cheesy, but I always say the fans are the reason that I keep going, because they're, I always think every show I do, there's some kid there that was me when I was 7, and maybe I can do for that kid what Brody did for me, is not only make me a professional wrestler, but make me a fan of wrestling. And, that's exciting. And then you hear the people erupt, and then when you're doing the meet and greets and stuff, they come up and they have these stories for you and stuff. Like, there was one guy, I was extremely dehydrated after a show, and I'm throwing up and stuff, and this kid walks up to me and he says, "I want to thank you." And I said, what's up? He said, I had a brain tumor and I had to have it removed, and going into surgery, I just listened to all the podcasts you did, especially the Jericho one, because I was on Jericho's podcast. He says, and when I first woke up, that was the first thing I had heard. So I want to thank you because you gave me the strength and the motivation. And I was like, that's what it's about. That's, to have that impact on somebody is a great feeling. And that's what keeps me going, and then, you can add in the students and stuff like that, watching them succeed, but like, they piss me off too. So it's the fans bringing me back, I just love performing.
I love that. And
Absolutely.
That's an incredible story, by the way, man. Like, I could only imagine like that being like bone chilling to hear somebody, going through that, having you as an inspiration to get them through tough times. So that's a great story to just share, man. I appreciate you even like sharing that with us.
It gives you imposter syndrome real bad, because you're like, me, you know what I mean? Like, it's weird, like I was in Italy 2 weeks ago, and just the fans that came out, to the show and the meet and greet and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I'm just some kid from, Wisconsin. Like, so it's like that imposter syndrome. And my wife yells at me. She says, you've worked hard enough. You need to start accepting your flowers. And I was like, all right, I'm going to start doing that.
Yeah, I got goosebumps when you said it. I don't know how you could be more humble than the way you explained the rush you get from hearing the fans, even behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I could hear it in your voice there. Like, that is so cool. That's that is one of the best answers I've ever heard on this program myself. Like, I was like, genuinely, like, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's a genuine feeling, man. And you can't, people try to say, oh, can you describe it? And you can't unless you experience it. And I tell my students all the time when they're getting ready for their first match, because the way that I train is I get you completely exhausted and then start teaching you, because now it becomes muscle memory and you have to think about it. Because when you have your first match, you're not worrying about how to take a hip toss or a back drop. You're thinking about, oh, I've got to do this spot, this spot, this spot. You have to have a character. You have to work in front of people. You're in your underwear. You know what I mean? I said, there's a lot of pressure going on. So I tell them, like, this has got to be muscle memory, you know, and that way the fans can get you through. When you walk out, nobody knows who you are, you know?
You got to do this stuff in your sleep. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like that is if you have that baseline, that is brilliant in and of itself, right?
Yeah, that's from the Harley train. That's how Harley would train us. He would torture us for the first hour. We always said torture, but it was stuff we'd use.
That's where. So I was going to get to Harley Race there. So you did train with Harley Race, correct? Me if I'm wrong there.
I broke in with a guy named Trevor Adonis in Milwaukee, and then after about a year and a half, maybe 2 years in wrestling, I did the Harley Race. He had like a week-long camp, and I did that. And out of that, I got a scholarship to a school. So I ended up moving down there and living there for 4 or 5 years and training with Harley. And I always say I went to grade school and high school with Trevor, and I went to college with Harley, because Harley like broke everything down and explained the business side of wrestling too, and how to make money in wrestling, not just, you know, this is how you do stuff. So now my training now, the last half hour of my class, I call it business talk, and we stop everything we're doing. We sit down and I explain to them how the business side of it works, that how you can make money in wrestling and how you can continue to make money. And that all comes from Harley.
Absolutely. I mean, just a legend of the business too, Harley Race. Like, come on, man. Like, I can only imagine the stories you have 2, 4, or 5 years like that. Like, man, off the charts. But Driz, I know you've got a question yourself to ask.
Yes. You just talked about like all the things you learned. What was the easiest lesson and the hardest lesson you've learned in the industry?
The easiest lesson was staying humble. To respect the people that came before you, to respect the people that are around you, respect the fans. You know, Harley had a saying that wrestling was here long before you and it's going to be here long after you. So while you're in it, just make it better. And I kind of live by that. We're like, I just want to make wrestling better and make it evolve. But then on the flip side, the hardest part too was being humble to the point where you're not being taken advantage of. Because there's humble, and then there's humble where people just take advantage of you and they know you're a good guy. And in wrestling, if you're a good person, it eats you up. You have to have a little bit of a dick side. You know, you have to say no to things. You have to, in a respectful way, you know, talk business and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, as long as I can look in the mirror and I'm happy with the guy I see back, then I know I did all right. So it's a double-edged sword. That's why it was so hard to learn, is because like you want to show respect and be humble, but like you don't just want to be taken advantage of. And I learned that real quick in my career, that they will take advantage of you, you know. So Harley would always, you know, he'd teach us that, like, you got to be humble, but then there's a point where you just got to put your foot down, you know.
That is fascinating, by the way, too, because I think that applies even outside of wrestling to like life.
I agree.
And you know, you gotta like, I mean, you know, I played collegiate golf, right? Yeah. Etiquette off the charts, right? It's all about that. But you gotta, if you're not making the lineup and you're playing well enough to be in the lineup, you might want to speak up.
Exactly.
Right. And you're kind of not supposed to, right? And it's like, yeah, that is something that I think applies across the board. It's a great, great, great life lesson.
Yeah, and I really didn't learn the second part of that lesson until I got into Ring of Honor, because there it's, if you don't say anything, you get lost in the shuffle. You know what I mean? Because it's a big TV company and they got guys coming in out, and you're always, you know, they want you to make them money. So you have to learn real quick, like, well, to say no to stupid ideas. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
And there's a way to say no where you're still humble and appreciative, but you're just, no, I'm not doing that.
It's like boundary drawing.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we're gonna
Yep.
use like psychology language, I guess, right? Like
Yeah.
it'd be like boundary drawing, right? You're just like, no, but not that.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm cool with everything but that.
Yeah, and once I learned it, like that's when my career really took off, and then that's what keeps me still around. I think with companies now that Ring of Honor, I say Ring of Honor shut down because this new Ring of Honor is not Ring of Honor.
Okay, so that was gonna
be a question I wanted to ask.
We're gonna go there.
That's exactly how I look at that.
Let's get into it.
Let's dive right in.
You brought that up. Obviously, it's well documented on our podcast that we have strong feelings about Ring of Honor currently. I think it's pretty much AEW Dark on a paywall, personally. You know,
Yep.
and that I love AEW. I got no issue with it. But obviously, you being like from the essence of what Ring of Honor, like I remember watching Ring of Honor when I was a kid, when like Punk was there and then American Dragon and all that. You know, how do you feel being like a vet and kind of seeing how it is now? Like, how does the new vision feel towards it compared to when you were in the locker room with all the guys that are on your poster right behind you?
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard not to get angry, you know, because I remember, so when the Elite left, the Bucks and Cody and all that, if you guys remember, the internet blew up saying Ring of Honor was going to shut down without them, that they were the lifeblood of Ring of Honor. And I remember the pre-tapes after they had left, we had a big locker room meeting, and leading it was Taven, the Briscoes, Jay Lethal, and Angelina Love. And the basis of it was, hey, this is what the internet's saying about us. We have two choices. We can do what they say and just shit the bed, you know, or we can go out and show them why we're Ring of Honor and why we don't need them, that we can do this on our own. And we kind of took it as a challenge, and we built it up. Like it didn't go down. It went up after they left. And then the pandemic hit, and I think Ring of Honor had the best wrestling going on with the peer tournament and with our, we didn't have fans in the building, but the stuff we were filming was great, you know, and we were firing on all cylinders, and we were the number 2 company in the world for a while. And then now to see Tony buy it just because he wants the 3 letters, because he wants to be able to show Danielson and Punk and Joe, and he hired all these old Ring of Honor guys, and WWE's not going to give him footage, so he's got to get it from somewhere. And then now it's just basically like, it's his junk drawer of wrestling, you know, like, oh, I just bought this new thing, but I have no place for it, so I'm going to stick it in the Ring of Honor drawer. There's no TV for it. You have to be an Honor Club member, which I haven't met a person yet with Honor Club, you know what I mean? And it's just, you get angry after a while, because it's like, man, I literally put my blood, sweat, and tears to make this company huge, and now in one fell swoop, it's nothing again. And I remember when I moved here to North Carolina, the first guy I really got to know was C.W. Anderson. And he kind of helped me navigate the waters, because if you remember, he was in ECW when it just shut down. And then when Vince bought it, it became WWECW. And he kept telling me, like, you can't be angry. You know, you're going to be mad. You're going to be upset, but you can't outwardly show it because you don't have any control over it. Just be happy with what you did and continue to live on. And now that we always call it the Sinclair era, now that's, you know, almost 5 years in the past, people are starting to want to book us on shows because it's a nostalgia thing now, you know? And so we're able to come out and still show them, like, hey, what you see isn't Ring of Honor. We're still the Ring of Honor guys, you know? And that's just the way it is. It's really hard not to get angry when you see something and then you don't see any of your friends on TV. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, man, like you said, all these guys on this poster, like only a handful of them got signed after that. You know what I mean? And now they're not doing anything with them. And it's like,
you mentioned the Sinclair era. I agree with you so much. I watched Ring of Honor so much during the pandemic, and I have so much respect that they ran the operation and, you know, gave us quality wrestling. Like, everyone puts a lot of, you know, a lot of thanks to like what AEW did, and then WWE running the PC. And but Ring of Honor was giving us some good stuff. And you even talk about, like, you do see a lot of the stars today, like Roxanne Perez was a little girl killing it, and now she's one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. You know, Jonathan Gresham, who's been so vocal in the same breath as what you're saying, and you know, not being, you know, being let go and kind of not getting the respect because he had a lot of honor for Ring of Honor, no pun intended. You know,
We all wore it like a badge of or a badge of honor. You know what I mean? I still have my jacket. I haven't worn my jacket since it got sold, but we all got these track jackets after Cody and the Bucks left. And it was kind of like that was like our like uniform. You know what I mean? Like we would wear them and with honor, no pun intended, because we were representing this company. And now when I see guys, you know, like if I see a Cheeseburger or a Will Ferrara or you know, some of the undercard guys, even Silas, you know, who is a main event guy, or Kenny King, we all still have those jackets. You know what I mean? Like, because it means something. It represents something. We just don't wear it because we don't want to be associated with what's going on right now.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. It's like it is sad because you want the Ring of Honor brand to live on in some way, but I completely understand. Like, right? Like what it is now is not.
Not it.
The WWE ECW
That's
reference. I was like, yeah, it's just brutal. Where the point we're at, like even as a fan, right? Like you mentioned, you're like, I don't know anybody that subscribes to Honor Club. I don't either.
Yeah,
is the scariest part.
And we used to get numbers every week because our goal was to not only have our ratings up, but we wanted the Honor Club numbers to go up because that's where you could watch the house shows. Like our house shows became TV tapings because we were recording them for Honor Club. And so they'd release the numbers and you could see them going up. And now it's like I said, even fans that come up now with an old Ring of Honor picture for me to sign, I'd be like, oh, do you have Honor Club still? And they're like, no, I got rid of that. You know, they gave it at some time, but then they just got rid of it. They can't justify paying the monthly fee and not get what they're used to. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's nonsensical.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day. Okay. I do have a question though myself. You mentioned Silas and then you've got Vinny.
Yeah.
The dart spot. I gotta ask you about the dartboard spot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Let's pivot to something a little more fun.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that one, my friend.
So Vinny was going from being Vinny to Vincent, and he wanted to come up with this character that he's got now where it's he didn't want to be, it's a cult leader, but it's not a cult leader, and it's Charles Manson, but it's also like a little Jeffrey Dahmer and all this stuff. And I says, yeah, I'd love to help him with that. So I remember me, him, Silas, and Malonis all sitting in a locker room in Chicago coming up with just ideas of how to make Vinny into Vincent. And I said, and we were in a program with him at the time. I said, we got to go really hard, you know, like we got to make you sick. So we started it in New York where TK and Vinny came out and hit me and Brian. Now they're only supposed to hit us with the chair about 4 times, but if you watch the video back, Vinny hits me 16 times with the chair because the crowd was so into it.
No, I watched it this morning. It's a lot of times.
16 times. So then he puts the chair over me and he has my cigar. And if you watch, I'm telling him, I'm like, light it and put it out on my chest. And he's like, you sure? I said, yeah, man, like you're crazy. Do it. So he lights it and he puts it out on my chest. I was so sweaty at the time, you know, and cigars don't stay lit unless you're smoking, you know, puffing on them. So like it got all the ash everywhere and I got a little bit of a burn, but it wasn't terrible, you know? So then we go to Milwaukee and it's like, okay, I'm coming back to Milwaukee. This would be a great thing. I said, you know, it's Silas's birthday. We'll do like a birthday celebration. And that's when Silas turns on us. And my daughter is a special effects makeup student. So she had created some fake teeth and fake blood. So it looked like he ripped my teeth out with a wrench.
That's how that happened?
Yeah. And so I was spitting blood and stuff like that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And nobody could tell. And what was cool is my daughter got a paycheck out of it. It was her first actual professional like paycheck for.
Oh, that's incredible.
Oh, that's sick.
So now we get to the bar fight without honor. And it's like, well, we got to go real big now. Like we just, you know, did all this other crap. We got to go huge. And I was actually really drunk watching Ridiculousness with my wife. And they had a clip of a couple English guys and they were shooting darts. And one guy put his hand up and the dart stuck to his hand and he started laughing. I'm like, huh. I wonder, so like I instantly get on the text thread and I'm telling all those guys, I want to take darts. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, somehow I want darts thrown at me, like, and so we came up with it, and then we came up with the spot, and only Vinny could pull it off, because when he pulls the darts out, he doesn't take them out. He takes his time with it, and then he throws them. And I didn't know how it would feel, but I remember sitting in the corner and Silas was holding me. I'm like, all right, man, tell me when they're in my back, when he's going to throw them. And Silas goes, he's done. They're in your back right now. And I was like, you're kidding me. He's like, no, they're sticking in your back right now. And you could hear the crowd and all that. And next thing you know, it went viral and became a thing. And it was awesome. And but the bad thing was I wanted to keep one of the darts as like a memory.
Yeah.
After the match, the ring crew guys put them over, and some fans reached over the guardrail.
Chuck them, no.
Well, if there's a fan listening and you have one of those 3 darts, please
send it back.
I want one.
Yes, you were the human dartboard.
Yeah,
you deserve one of the darts.
Still worth it. Yeah.
Yes. Oh man, no, I remember watching it and just being like, oh, this is crazy. Like, oh, wait, what?
And that's what we actually wanted, because we needed Vinny to be like, that was his last incarnation of being this sick, freak. And I remember after we did that, we got in the back, and Delirious, the booker, came up and he gave us a hug, and he looked at Vinny and goes, you are now the most sadistic guy in the company, and that's what we're going for.
I mean, you gave it. I mean, man, like, by the way, I mean, I remember I love professional wrestling, right?
Yeah.
Death match doesn't matter, whatever it is, blood doesn't matter to me or whatever. But I remember the first time I saw it, just being like, ooh, that was a dart. That was a dart.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the adrenaline rush you had at the time to be like, no way.
And we didn't want it to be a death match, because we wanted to be
that's the brilliance.
Yeah, because there's a difference between death match and hardcore. You know
Huge,
what I mean?
Huge difference.
Wasn't the light tubes.
I'm not like a diehard deathmatch fan. That's not like my gimmick. That not even gimmick, whatever. That's not my thing, right?
Yeah.
I just like, my point is like, I'm like, I don't get squeamish, but that one got me on the for a hardcore match. It was like, ooh, that got me for a second. I was like, whoa, that's a dart. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
no, I have friends who send me like reels on like from the For You page, and I've gotten that scene from like random friends like, yo man, this is crazy. And I'm just like, yeah, I remember like around the time when that happened or whatnot. It's definitely one of those like moments in wrestling that's kind of stamped for
it's just iconic.
And we didn't think that beforehand, like, oh, this is gonna go viral and this is gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like, we were just like, we got to get the people, we got to get Vinny to that sadistic side, and we want to make the people feel uncomfortable. And
yes.
And I think we accomplished it. And then it went viral.
You did.
And then I got a message that night. All 4 of us got a message that night from Sin Bodhi, who's Kizarni. And he accused me of stealing his spot, because I guess he does that in the carnivals and stuff. And I was like, dude, I honestly didn't know it was you. I said, man, I was drunk. I was watching Ridiculousness. It was just a drunk idea I got, which a lot of my good ideas are when I'm drunk.
I forgot about that guy.
I will say though, but the Kizarni.
Yeah,
and then that's deathmatch stuff.
And then we did indie show, and he walked up and he hugged me. He's like, I'm really sorry, man. I was just really mad because you guys were in Vegas and Ring of Honor didn't book me, and I took it out on you. I'm like, no worries, man. Like,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like he's a stand-up guy. I love him. And he came up at a new show, and he said he was wrong. And I'm like, dude, that's cool. That make
respect.
That's a big man. Yeah, that's a lot of respect where you can admit you're wrong,
That's almost cooler than being right in the first place.
Yeah.
Sometimes. You know what I mean? Yeah. In some ways, like I totally hear you when it comes to that. Okay, dumb ROH question. But the Bouncers is maybe my favorite tag team ever. Man. I mean, come on. It doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any better.
Yeah, we get that a lot because we look like everybody.
But it's and you look like bouncers. I worked at bars my entire childhood. Like you guys
And-
are bad.
Like
And
you
you
Were
definitely
my
threw me out
best
of
friends as a
like
you
you
bartender.
see a
definitely
lot
threw me
of
out of
wrestlers-
somewhere.
And you see a lot of wrestlers even nowadays, like they kind of, maybe deliberately, maybe not deliberately, kind of jack y'all's like aesthetic and style a little bit, right?
Oh,
The
yeah,
two
we've been
buff, big guys, who just go in and do business. Like I think we watch we review NXT, all three of us. There's
Yeah.
literally a team that kind of like is a little bit like
Oh,
y'all.
they are the spitting image. The
Yeah,
spitting
like-
image.
Which is funny because Steve Carino's at NXT and Steve Carino helped come up with the gimmick. So
See,
what's funny though is you mentioned guys working like us. So when Ring of Honor got sold, we reached out to the NWA because we had worked for them before the pandemic. So Brian and I reached out and we got an email back and they said, "Hey, we'd really like to book you guys, but we already have the Wish version of you guys. And we don't want to insult you by offering what we're paying them to pay you guys. So maybe in the future." And it was like, what? Like, but at least they told us. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean,
that's actually crazy that NWA did that.
Yeah. And they're still there. The guys are still there. So, and what's funny is one guy broke in with Malonis. So Malonis like called him out. He's like, "What the hell, man?" He's like, "Hey, man, we didn't know you guys would get done with Ring of Honor. We thought you'd be there forever. So we're just kind of, doing our own thing."
and you're like, right, but
Yeah.
you have phones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Call and say, "Hey,
Right, but
hey,
you do
wanna
have
this
phones.
gimmick? Is that all right?" Like, yeah. Because like your shirt, the Beer World Order shirt, a fan made that design for us. And when we were going to print the shirts, I messaged Kevin Nash and Blue Meanie and showed them and said, "Hey,
Yeah.
can we use this?" And they're both like, "Yeah, go ahead as long as you send us a shirt." So
nice.
it's just out of
That is
respect, you know
dope.
what I mean? Because it's clearly a ripoff, but it's like it looks good, it sells good, and a fan made it for us. So it's like, hey, so we wanted to get permission, and they were cool with it. So
I gotta be
in fact,
clear.
I was on a show with X-Pac, and he saw it, and he goes, "Oh, I've heard about this shirt." He's like, "That's awesome." I'm like, "Thanks, man." So
Oh, that's so cool. I was a fan ahead of time, but I got to be clear. The day I saw it available, I was like, so I own 3 of them.
awesome.
Be honest, I was like, this isn't at the time, right? I wasn't even in wrestling media.
Yeah.
I was doing other work. I was like, this is my gimmick, like in public, like it's right. Like I was like, I need these shirts.
Like I said, the best world order.
It's my favorite design. It's the best world order by miles.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's not even close. It's one of my favorite things, and I can't even believe it's awesome to hear that a fan designed it. That's really cool. That
Yeah,
it's just like
randomly sent it to Malonis and I, and we're both like, "This is cool. Like, let's figure this out." What do you guys?
you're like, yeah.
Yeah, and Ring of Honor obviously wouldn't touch it, so we had to wait.
Yeah.
That's why for a while it was just exclusive to our Pro Wrestling Tee stores. But now that we're on the indies and stuff, we sell them at the shows and whatnot. But yeah, we went to Ring of Honor right away, and they're like, "That's too close."
The funniest part is I wore it to All In or All Out. I'm sorry, in 2021, and I wore it to All Out in 2022. Same shirt.
Yeah.
And both years, same concept. You get half the fans that are like Beer City Bruiser, and then the other half are like, "Where did you get that shirt? What is it?" Right? And it was like, but everybody notices it.
Yeah,
that's the brilliance. You know what I mean? Like you can't miss it.
Nope.
Because you're like, wait, that doesn't say NWO, and it's not even a Blue World Order shirt. Like,
you're
like, that's a mug. Like, it's brilliant.
Yes.
And the cool thing about it too is like the one you have is the Brewers logo, like the Brewers colors. I have one that's the Packers colors. I'm a Chiefs fan too, so we have one that's the Chiefs colors. Now that we live in North Carolina,
I need to get
Panther
that one.
colors. So
it gets better.
Chiefs. We got to talk Chiefs eventually because I'm a huge diehard Chiefs fan.
Fly Eagles fly. Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry,
this isn't exactly the podcast. He's a Philly guy. He's not even from Philly. He's really from
all the time.
Northern Virginia. That's like close.
I'm from
to
the
Philly.
I'm from the DMV, but I
grew
up.
That's like Philly adjacent.
Oh,
it is what it is.
Jesus.
Anyways, let's not talk about the Super Bowl.
Yeah, let's move. Let's keep it
back to question. In regards to being in Ring of Honor, who was your favorite wrestler to lock in with when you were in ROH?
The Briscoe brothers, bar none. Jamin, God rest his soul, and Chicken they were the heart and soul of Ring of Honor. I remember my first day there, they put me in the car with them, so I just sat and listened to them, got really close to both of them. Then Silas and I were put into a program with them, and then Malonis and I were put into a program with them, and every night you wrestled them, you knew you were in a fight. Like you were gonna feel. I remember Malonis was real nervous our first match, and I already worked them a bunch, and I said, "Man, don't worry about it. Like it's a night off. You'll be fine." I said, "But you're gonna feel it for a week after." And he's like, okay. And then we show up to TV a week later, and he comes limping in. I'm like, "You still feeling that match, huh?" He goes, "Man, they kicked the crap out of us." I go, "Yeah, but we kicked the crap out of them too." So, but yeah, just anytime stepping in the ring with them, I knew we were going to have a great match, and it was going to be perfect, and it was. And I'm real happy I got to be close to them. Still close with Chicken, and like I said, I miss Jay every day. It's real sad what happened, and he's truly missed.
I think we all do, man. Like that is one of those Jay Briscoe. What a just a
Man,
light to the
Wow.
world, right?
Yeah.
Like the way that he performed, and like I attended the Ring of Honor show Mania Week, WrestleMania 39 in LA.
Mhm.
And as you call him, Chicken, Mark performed on that show. It was awesome. It was so cool to see, and they were passing out the Briscoe wristbands, and that's one that I like. I mean, I think about this. It's funny because we had the conversation earlier. I think about that double dog collar match with them and FTR might have been the last true Ring of Honor match ever.
I agree 100%.
Right?
Yep.
I think that was the last Ring of Honor match we ever got to see. And
Yeah.
I didn't realize it at the time. I wouldn't have, but I celebrate that one. I've gone back and watched it since. It's art.
Yeah. And all the 3 matches they did are what, like, I agree with you. That was the end of Ring of Honor. You know
It
what I
was.
mean? That was the last matches. And it's good to say because the Briscoes, like I said, were the heart and soul of Ring of Honor. So them to be involved in it's kind of, poetic,
It is. It is 100%. Like, I mean, yeah, you can't even. The one thing that is positive that I do appreciate is at least we are getting Mark Chicken as you called him, on TV.
Yeah.
Now that is huge. At least so there was a right done there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And you know what? Tony did the right thing by taking care of Mike, taking care of Jay's family.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He flew a lot of the guys to the funeral, so like for all the stuff he's doing with Ring of Honor, he still does care about guys, you know what I mean? So that was really cool to see all that. Cause you were, us as wrestlers, like this is our income, you know what I mean? And something happens and he has kids, obviously. So it's like, but yeah, they were taken care of, which was great.
And he had
to watch
kids.
the good girls walk out with Mark, pulled at the heartstrings.
Oh yeah, no, that'll make you not to get like all choked up on the show today, but like, yeah, no, that will tug on your heartstrings, no doubt about it. But Driz, did you have one more question? And then I think we get into our rankings at the end here.
You say that Mark Briscoe and Mark and Jay are the heart and soul of Ring of Honor. You as well are a major strand in Ring of Honor. There isn't a show that I watch that when I see you come out, the crowd just goes crazy for you. What is it about Ring of Honor that just made you like, you know what, this is home for me?
So if you go back a little bit, when I left Harley's and I moved back to Wisconsin, I was kind of like, okay, I'm happy where I'm at. I'm working a bunch of indies, I did WWE tryouts, I did TNA tryouts, you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm happy being a big fish in a small pond and just kind of going through the motions and stuff like that, having fun. Mm-hmm. And Steve Carino, Kevin Kelly, Kevin Steen, all were telling me, like, you got to do a tryout at Ring of Honor. You're going to be perfect. Your character is exactly what they're looking for. And I did that before. I don't want, you know what I mean? Like hoeing and humming and stuff. And then my father-in-law was my biggest fan. And he kept on me, like, why aren't you doing this? You know, you got these guys telling you, and I, you know, and I kind of told him, like, I'd been there, done that type thing, you know. When he passed away, he left enough money for me to pay for the tryout, pay for a flight, rental car, and a hotel. But the only way we could use the money was if it was for that. So I remember telling my wife, like, after I signed up and got accepted, I said, when I go to this tryout, I'm not just going to be a guy. I'm going to be the guy. Like, I want to be the guy that steps out and shows up. And after the second day, Delirious pulled me aside and says, hey, you're in our next top prospect tournament, you know, and he was the first person to ever say yes to me. So going to Ring of Honor and then seeing the locker room and how welcoming everybody was, and just over time being accepted, and we were truly a family, and it just felt like home. And to this day, I still talk to guys and girls on the roster, you know. It's great when we see each other at conventions and stuff, because it's like, you know, not a day has passed. And it just the welcoming atmosphere of that, Delirious taking a chance on me, taking a chance on a guy like Brian, and letting us have fun. And then during the pandemic, we pitched a bunch of creative stuff they did with us. We did I learned like the production side because my hip was really bad. So Hunter saw that and he's like, why don't you try being an agent? Like, I'll start, you know. So I started learning that, which helps me now, you know. So to sum it up, it was they were the first place to actually say yes. And then the locker room was so welcoming and such a family that it was hard not to feel like home.
I love that. That is absolutely incredible. To just and to take advantage in a positive way.
Yeah.
Of a situation like that is so cool. Like, to just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yep.
that's incredible.
Yeah,
That's really awesome.
I had to see what everybody else saw. And then with it, you know, my father-in-law passed away, God rest his soul. But like him taking a chance in the afterlife, I guess
what
you
a
could
good
say.
person.
Yeah. Like, he
And-
believed in me that much, where it's like, okay, you know?
Yeah. And that's just something that, that is, there's almost nothing more human than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. That's why I tell everybody, take a leap of faith. You never know what'll happen.
Yes. Anything is possible, in the words of the great Kevin Garnett.
Yep.
I'm kidding.
Anything is possible.
But by the way, that's the funniest story, not to whatever. We're talking wrestling here, but he was supposed to say impossible is nothing, and he just ripped anything is possible. It's completely whiffed it because he was an Adidas athlete. That's like the funniest thing I've ever heard in sports.
Yeah.
He just got stoked. He was like, "Oh no, I forgot the tagline."
Big ticket guy. He punched in the title that year, but
yeah, he was like, anything is possible. That was it, right?
Like, no, but
no, that wasn't it. But it was close. You had it. Okay, no, but Shoddy, we've had this segment planned.
Yeah,
ranking time.
So, you know,
with the Beer City Bruiser, we're ranking beers.
Man, definitely.
All right, I like ranking beers.
Definitely, we here like to have fun, and we're doing something different because you are the Beer City Bruiser. We like to have a new game on Sunday Spotlight. It's called King of the Hill, right? Okay. I'm gonna give you a beer, and then we're gonna just go, and you're gonna select which beer you think is better. Whatever is the last standing beer on this King of the Hill will be the King of the Hill of the beers.
Be the winner.
All right.
Yes, this will be the top beer. So starting off, I think we will have to go with, some popular ones. We'll start with Bud Light or Coors Light.
Coors Light. Bud Light is ass.
Okay.
What did I tell you about St. Louis?
So living with Harley and being from Milwaukee, all bars serve as Bud Light. And Terry Funk was in one time, and he says he saw I was trying to put down Bud Light, but it was just hard. And I go, Terry, this is gross. He goes, well, kid, why don't you go and buy a Coors Light? You know it's owned by Miller. And I was like, oh, he's right. So I got Coors Light, and then now to this day, if I can't get my favorite beer, I get Coors Light. Or if I'm in a place that only serves Bud, I get Coors Light.
Okay, so we going with Coors Light.
Oh, for sure.
Coors Light or Miller Light?
Oh, see, that's a toss-up. Because it all depends on where I'm at and in the mood. If I'm at AmFam Field, it's Miller Lite. If I'm other places, it's Coors Light. So how about this? If I'm at a sporting event, Miller Lite. If I'm doing just like a backyard barbecue, Coors Light.
Okay. For the sake of the game, I guess we'll go
Well,
with Miller.
carry both.
Okay, we'll go Miller Lite. That's fine. Let's go with Miller Lite. That's fine.
Okay.
He's going Miller Lite.
Miller Lite or Corona?
Miller Lite. Corona's good, but Miller Lite's more you can have every day. Where Corona, I'm just, especially I'm trying to get drunk. I can't get drunk on Corona.
Can I throw in a few?
Go ahead.
Miller Lite or MGD?
Miller Lite. MGD's too heavy, and I'm not a college student anymore.
So then High Life as well, champagne of beers.
High Life is when you're already drunk and you don't have a lot of money, so you go buy a pack of High Life.
That's so
okay.
You forget, I grew up in Milwaukee, man. I got this all.
I know you grew up in Milwaukee, so I'm going to throw in a tough one here. Miller Lite, Spotted Cow.
Miller Lite. I hate Spotted Cow, and I get
really.
And anytime I'm in Wisconsin,
gives me gas, but I do like it out of the draft for like the first one of the night.
Nope.
I'm a Spotted Cow guy myself. I thought you might.
Nope.
You might bite on Spotted.
I get made fun of by everybody because Spotted Cow is national. And everyone's like, well, you don't like this? This is from Milwaukee. I'm like, yeah, it tastes like ass. I don't like it.
You got one? You got one, Drizzy?
On the draft in Milwaukee, I like it. But I do hear you. Okay.
No, because I don't discriminate as long as it's not Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Okay. Miller Lite.
How about PBR?
Yeah.
Miller Lite over PBR, but that's because I did a Christmas show at the PBR in Chicago. They have the headquarters there.
Yeah.
And so we did a Christmas show, and it was all the PBR we could drink, and then dollar shots of Jack Daniels.
Oh.
Ooh,
I
nice.
don't remember getting home that night, but I remembered for the next 3 days, anytime I sweat, it smelled like PBR.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll drink it if I have to, but I prefer Miller Lite over PBR.
Bingo.
Okay. You got one, Clark?
What about like Goose Island?
If somebody else is buying it, I'm not buying it.
But Miller Lite, right?
Yeah, Miller Lite for sure. Yeah,
we're sticking with Miller Lite.
Honestly,
I've been a Miller Lite guy since I was 12. I snuck my first one.
We'll get a couple more in. Miller Lite or Yingling?
Yingling, 100% Yingling.
Okay.
I
like you. I like
that's the
that.
That's North Carolina influence.
No, so the Yingling thing goes way back to when I got married to my wife. God, it's been 15 years now. But our honeymoon was in Gettysburg and DC and all that, because I'm a big history buff, and we were both wearing Brewer jerseys, and there was another couple on the little shuttle for the tour, and the guy goes, "Hey, you guys are big Brewer fans?" We're like, "Yeah." It turns out he lived in the same town we lived in, and they were on their honeymoon too.
Oh, that's cool.
And he goes, "Hey, do you drink?" And I said, "Yeah, man." He goes, "I'm gonna tell you right now, try Yingling. It's gonna blow your mind." So what's that? He says, "It's a beer over here on the East Coast. Try it." So I tried it and it blew my mind. Well, since I lived in the Midwest, I couldn't get it all the time.
Okay.
So when I got signed with Ring of Honor, anytime I'd fly to the East Coast, I'd bring an extra bag to put 2 cases of beer in of Yingling to fly back home. And now that I'm in North Carolina, I have to pick and choose because I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to get it so good that I just don't like it anymore.
I respect it.
Yeah,
it is definitely prominent East Coast because I live right outside of DC. And I've been drinking England since I was like probably before 21. But anytime I would go to the bar, that's definitely still my beer of choice when I'm just
all the East Coast guys said that was the beer they all grew up on. Like we grew up on Miller Lite, you guys grew up on Yingling. So it's like that's why I always get weird looks when I say Yingling, but I'm like, no, you got to see where I'm coming from.
Try it.
So I
had one a couple of weeks ago. It was delicious.
It's a wash. I honestly, I got to come clean here. Like, I'm a Midwest guy as well, right? I lean Miller Lite, but the truth is Yingling's just as good, if not better. Like, I just don't have access to it as often, right?
Yep.
It's like, that's the, that makes Yingling's a tough one to beat. I don't know if we have one that can beat Yingling.
I think
I'm just glad that you answered no on Bud Light.
As an East Coast guy, I'm cool with that being King of the Hill.
I think that's
for
the
now.
winner.
Yeah.
Oh,
for sure.
Yingling all the way.
But what is your favorite beer of
Yingling.
choice? That's it.
Yingling.
Oh,
Yingling.
we
Yep.
good then. We
Yeah.
good.
I
Yeah.
feel like
Hey, if
we're
you
at.
ever do a show in DC or like in the DMV area, I got a couple beers on me. if I,
All
if
all
you're
right,
there.
I'll hold you to
Absolutely.
it.
We don't have Yingling, but if you're ever on the West Coast, of course, first round's on me. No doubt
Sounds
about
good.
it. No doubt about it. But I think Louisville as well. I think Driz, you got beer
I got
for him
you.
as
I
well.
got you for it. It's like we got more
Absolutely,
we got
but-
more bourbon than beer. So you need a shot of bourbon.
Drizzy
you
is
got-
also in
Yeah.
he's in OVW country too. So Al Snow, get him out there, let him beat up some of your little, Netflix kids that you have on your show.
Yes.
Let's get it popping.
Absolutely. But I do think that brings us to the end of today's show, my friends. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. We really appreciate it on behalf of me, Clark, Drizzy, Shad, and most importantly, the Beer City Bruiser.
Before we go, though, we do have to give the red carpet to you. Plug yourself.
Oh,
anything
yes.
you
Plug
got coming
anything
up,
you want to
all
plug.
of that.
We did talk about St. Louis, but even further, yes.
Yeah, my socials are simple. On Facebook, it's the Beer City Bruiser. Instagram is Beer City Bruiser. Twitter or X, whatever the hell it's called now, is at BCB Winchester. I'm on Cameo if you want me to do a shout out for you. That's a Beer City Bruiser. ProWrestlingTees.com/Beer City Bruiser. And then if you want to train with me, I train at a school. It's AMLWrestling.com/training. You can sign up and come train with me.
Love it. Absolutely. 100%. Go train with Beer City Bruiser. What are you thinking? By the way, but that does actually bring us to the end of the show. On behalf of all of us, I already kind of did the cold ending that we're just going to end the show. Thank you, everybody that tuned in. I'm going to make fun of our great graphics guy, Ben, and say, peace. No, I'm totally kidding. Everybody have a good one, and we will talk to you soon.